to another edition of Be the Change Georgia, where we amplify the voices of the inspiring business leaders surrounding the B Corp and social impact movements across the Southeast to help you learn how to build your legacy at the intersection of people, planet, purpose, and profit. Today, there are more than 8,000 B Corps in over 80 countries and 180 different industries, unified by one common goal: transforming the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. If you want to learn how to plug into our purpose-driven business community alongside the inspiring leaders we feature on this show, check us out at belocalgeorgia.com or on Instagram or Facebook at belocalgeorgia, and we'll hope to meet you at our next event. Today, you'll have the opportunity to learn from Dontrese Brown, founder and CEO of BROWNBAYLOR and co-founder of Hidden in Plain Sight. BROWNBAYLOR is a creative strategy and marketing agency that delivers international narratives designed to make history through purposeful engagement. Dontrese is a visionary leader whose audacious confidence serves as a superpower for energizing others to change the world. From his early years in Louisville to leading global creative teams, his journey is a masterclass in aligning professional success with a deep personal calling for justice and community impact. In our conversation, we explore the through line that connects leadership to purpose, the birth of the Hidden in Plain Sight VR project, and why true stewardship means planting seeds for trees whose shade you may never sit under. Stay tuned to learn how to lead with both your mind and your heart and create a lasting legacy. Enjoy the episode. Dontrese Brown, how are you?
Man.
Good to have you on.
I'm good, man. Good to see you again, my friend. How you doing?
I have nothing to complain about. My 2026 resolution was to express more gratitude, so we're not going to complain anyway.
Gratitude is everything. Truth and gratitude. That's where we need to be.
It's interesting though. It's like a mindset shift to go through, doing this work of like a lot of reflection too, of like, and you do similar work of like, there's a lot of whatever, carrying the trauma of everybody you're trying to help and the people you're trying to bring with you. And it has required me to kind of take a new outlook on life and maybe express a little bit more gratitude than dwelling on the negatives of the things we're trying to fix, maybe focus on the hope and the optimism of the things that can be. So what better way to start off 2026 than with you sitting across from me?
That's right.
So.
I appreciate it, man. It's good to see you as always. And, God has a weird way of connecting people. And I'm so glad that he connected us. So, and we're here in 2026. What a great way to start it off. So excited to chat.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll get right into it. And I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing and some of the when we talked in the planning call, we talked about like this lifestyle really that you've lived of humble leadership. And so can you kind of take us back to early Dontrese and some of those, everything that you went through kind of shaped that humble leadership style that you value today?
Yeah. And so, I was born and raised in the inner city of Louisville, Kentucky, the east end of Louisville, Kentucky, single parent, raised by my mom and it was me and my sister, who is 3 years younger than I am. We lived in the projects, around, guns, violence, you name it, all the things. Right. And so, just growing up in that environment and just realizing the things that I didn't have access to, and the difficulties of just trying to survive in that world. And then just being thankful for what we did have, and not really, it was weird because we didn't complain a lot. We were just thankful for what we had. And even on our little block, all of us on our little block, we were always just helping each other, providing for each other. If someone didn't have something, we helped them. If we didn't have something, they helped us. So that humility was always something. Of course, we had faith. We didn't know why we were in our situation, but we knew that there was something bigger planned for us, but we just didn't know what it was. And so that humility started early. And then as I got older, I just started to look back at the things that all the vices that I didn't have, I wanted to address as I got older. And I didn't know how important that was until I started to grow up a little bit more and recognize things and started to address those things as I got older, whether it was education, whether it's food scarcity, whether it was homelessness, workforce development, you name it, education, health, you all the things, right? Like you don't realize where you are when you're in those moments until you are in a position to where you're outside of those and you're like, oh, I didn't have access to these things and I didn't have access to those things. And I wonder why. And you look at your community and you realize like no one had access to those things and why is it? And then you start to shift your mentality of how to address those things. But you also realize that, you know, things could be worse. And it's so funny, like, and you'll understand this because you are one that you go around, you pick up trash, you do all those things, right? So, comedian Mike Epps, and he was like, everybody thinks their problems are really bad until you go and you pick up somebody else's problems. Like if you just go on the corner and I go and I was like, hey, change my problems and let me pick up your problems, and you're like, holy shit, I don't have it as bad as I thought I had it, right? And so that's where that humility comes in, and realizing that everybody carries an invisible backpack, that we don't know what's in it. And we have to understand that empathy and the humility of understanding, like, I don't know what the hell you're going through. And I'm here to be there for you no matter what it is, because you're carrying something that I have no idea about. And likewise with me as well. And so that's where that started. And my mom was always one that was, intentional about making sure that even though we had it bad, there's always someone that has it worse, and that we need to be, empathetic about that. Even though we don't have anything, there's always someone that doesn't have something, that has less than what we have. And we need to be, understanding of that
And be grateful for it. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
be
you're right.
grateful for it.
I hadn't thought about it in that light, but yeah, you go out on the corner, you start picking up pill bottles and syringes and liquor bottles and beer cans, and it puts your
Yes.
own perspective or your own problems into perspective pretty quickly. Even your own
Right.
baggage pretty quickly of
Right.
the things you're dealing with internally, that, like you said, that invisible backpack that we all kind of carry
Right.
around. Of I think as we get older, there's more of an appreciation for the traumas, the everything, and we almost have to get
Right.
out of this weird like comparison game too of like our victimhood mindset of my problems are worse, and then try
I
to.
know. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, you had it bad. But wait, let me tell you how bad I had it. No, it's not even like that. It's like, you can't look at it from that perspective. It's like we all got it bad, and let's just figure out how we can collectively work together from a humility standpoint and help each other get through whatever trauma it is, whatever issue it is, whatever concern it is.
When was that moment? Like, did you have a moment when you realized, like, hey, my life's calling is community impact? Like, did you have that? Like, I don't know that I can pinpoint mine, other than it just started
Yeah.
to happen, and I realized it was the calling. But do you have a moment?
Yeah, I do. Nathan, I do. I remember it vividly. It was around 2012, 2011, 2012. I had two kids. I was working at Swiss Army. I was doing amazing work at Swiss Army, global organization. I was the global creative director for an iconic brand. I mean, everybody has a narrative around a Swiss Army knife, a Swiss Army watch, you name it. And they were really committed to um, the environment. Everything was pure, everything was clean, and how they did their thing. It was family owned. But I just felt like I was just selling knives, selling watches, selling bags, selling fragrances. And I had two kids at the time. And my daughter was born in 2006. My son was born in 2008. And I was like, I wanted my work to impact the world that they would be entering. Um, and so I remember going into my office. I would get up every morning, Office didn't open until 9. I would get up every morning and I would be in the office by 6:30, 7 o'clock. And I would read John Maxwell's book, The 15 Indisputable Laws of Personal Growth. I would get into the office and I would just sit and I would read and I would read. And I was just trying to figure out like who I was and what, and I was just really doing a lot of self-reflection. What are my values? What is my purpose? And what am I here to do? And with that book on one side, the Bible on the other side. And every day I would come in and I did this repeatedly for 3, 4 months in a row because I wanted my work to mean something to the world. Um, and I realized, and it helped me identify what my purpose was. And my purpose in life is to help others see their potential, but also their ability to reach their potential. That's my purpose in life. That's why God placed me here. And I know that. I know what my purpose is. And so once I identified that, I was like, holy shit, this is why I'm here on this earth. This is why I'm here. And then it was like a ton of bricks lifted off my shoulder. So I came in one day, I rolled out of bed and I told my wife, I said, when I come home today, I'm not going to have a job. And we had talked about this. We had talked about like, I'm going through this process. And she says, okay. So I went into the office. I went and met with my HR professional and I said, I'm not supposed to be here. And she says, what are you're on vacation or something? You should be talking to your boss and your superior. I'm like, no, I am not supposed to be here. My purpose is something else. And she's like, who the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Like, what? So we go upstairs and we talk to my superior. And I say, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, my purpose is bigger than this. Like, I love this job, but I'm not supposed to be here. Like, my calling is different. And I was at a point, I don't know, it just felt like my mind was so clear. And I was at a point to where I was committed to leap and the net will appear. I had nothing. I had no other opportunity, no nothing, man. And they were like, we can't have you leave. And so we orchestrated, a 3 month like ramp to where, okay, if you're going to leave, let's do it this way. And be smart, man. You don't have anything going on. You're just going to walk out of here, da 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 da, and we need you, that type of deal. But I remember it vividly. And then that's when I started to really get focused into the community. So within that 3 months, and we were in New Haven, Connecticut. I started to just go on the speaking circuit, and I started to speak around creative leadership. Not only creative leadership, but purposeful leadership. How do you combine? How do you address your professional and your purposeful journey? Your personal journey. How does that align? How do you align your heart with your mind and your purpose? So I started going on this journey of speaking around that, and I was uniquely able to combine. Yeah, I'll talk about creative and building in-house creative teams because that's what I was really good at. I was really good at building in-house creative teams. And so, yeah, I can talk about that, but I can also talk about these things. And then I started to get into the inner city of New Haven, started speaking at, schools and high schools and colleges and community centers and all those things because I just felt like that's where I needed to be because again, my purpose was to help others see their potential, but also their ability to reach their potential. So I know when that happened. And then once I understood what my purpose was, it was like, holy shit. Like I could deflect stuff. No, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing that. Like I know what my no, I'm not going to do that because it's not within my purpose. No, I know I'm not going to do that. Oh, yes, I'm going to do that. And that's where I started to be able to, have a line of sight to what I was supposed to do.
Damn. Yeah, that is it's a powerful moment too when you realize you're in the right spot. It's a very powerful moment to realize, like, this is what I'm supposed to be. Like, how do you figure it out from there? Like, you're creative. Like, I think that gives you I don't want to say a natural advantage, but I think there's when we think business, like, we don't really teach creativity in business schools. I
Right.
think there's an inherent advantage, but like, how did you figure out, like, okay, now what's next? Like, how do I feed my kids and provide for my
Yeah.
family and
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. So what I started to do was like, okay, so how can I continue? Because nobody wanted to hear this shit. Nobody wanted to hear, oh yeah, you're wanting to help people and help them identify their purpose and then align it with whatever. Nobody wanted to hear that. So then it was like, all right, so how can I do this from a corporate standpoint? How can I do that? So then I started to say, all right, creatively, I'm a creative problem solver. That's what I do. And so, how can I leverage this? How can I leverage this to elevate this? Right. And so then I started to say, all right, so when it comes down to the bottom line, everybody's worried about ROI. Everybody's worried about the business results. Everybody's worried about the bottom line, the dollar amount. Okay. So then I started to say, all right, how can I use my creativity in this nugget here, this big old fat head? How can I leverage the creativity that I've been given as a talent from God to help the business solve problems? That's when the nut cracked, because from a creative standpoint, we solve problems differently. We just do. You can give us anything. You can throw a puzzle on the table. You can throw anything on the table, and we will creatively look at it differently. Well, let's turn it this way, and let's shake it this way, or let's move it this way, or whatever. And we look at it from a different perspective. Because from a business standpoint, they're only looking at it this way. And so that's when I realized that there was an opportunity for me to come in and say, wait a minute. How about looking at it from this perspective? What if we bring in these individuals? And what if we ask Nathan to come in? And what if we ask Quentin to come in? And what if we bring in Mike from this and Lisa from here? And then we all sit down, and then I lead this creative thought process where everyone's involved in it. Oh, and we're still aligning collectively together for one goal. So then it became, oh, well, let's bring Dontrese in because he's really good at helping us solve this problem. And that's when I was like, oh. So instead of going through the problem solving, basically how they've always done it, I just came in and I just challenged them gently. Hey, have you thought about looking at this? You know what? There's one way that we used to do this, from a creative standpoint. We actually looked at it, and you can call it design thinking, you can call it creative thinking, you can call it whatever. You can label it whatever you want. But this is the way, from a creative standpoint, how my mind is wired. I look at it from all different perspectives, and I involve everybody that needs to be involved. One, you're looking at it differently, but then you are inviting everybody so they feel like they have a place at the table. That was critical. That was critical. And then what I did, the kicker was also, then I started to sit in on their marketing business meetings to understand their side of the business. And then what I did is I said, you know what? Why don't you come in and sit on our creative work session? Why don't you look at how we're listening to what you're saying and then how we are creatively solving that problem? Oh, so there is a method to the madness that you all are. Yes, there is. Then they began to buy into what we were doing. So it wasn't like a sell to us anymore. They were already invested. That was the key.
You were doing
That was the
stakeholder capitalism before anybody had a term for it.
absolutely. So then it was just like we became such great partners because they knew the creative process and respected it. I knew the business side of it because I sat in on their, hey, where's Dontrese? He's not on this call. Well, he should be on this call, because then I understood the data that they were given or their business goals. And then I took that information, brought them with me and said, here's what your goals are. Here's what we're doing from a creative standpoint to solve that problem.
And it's somebody whose mission has always been to build companies and jobs that don't suck. That's really what it comes down to, though. Is you're preaching something. Well, you're preaching it to the choir right now, but there's other people listening. Of the importance, though, of it's not just that executive. How many workshops has everybody been through where it's just the
Right.
executives in the room, and that consultant leaves and nothing changes?
Right.
They had a powerful 2 or 3 days, and then they just kind
Right.
of revert back. That's not going to
They just
form
put
any
it
new.
on the shelf. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. They just put it on the shelf. Yeah. But the biggest thing is, I'm telling you, Nathan, the biggest thing is the trust factor. When they understand that you believe enough or are integrated enough in their side of the business, they begin to trust you. And then when you bring them into your creative process, whatever it is, they begin to trust you more, because now they're seeing, oh, this is not just pixels and colors and things. There's a strategy behind it. Yeah, I got 2 master's degrees in graphic design. This is not just something that anybody can do, right? And you've got an MBA, so I'm not going to challenge you on that. Let's work together collectively, and we can become superheroes within as business partners. And then we begin to trust each other. It's crazy. Once I cracked that nut, and I started to crack it when I was at Swiss Army, but then I really cracked it when I was at Capital One. That was when I really started to win. And I built a team that my business partners trusted. And that's when I started to win.
And now that you've started to win on the business side and personal calling, personal, again, I feel like you talked about helping people become their best selves. Like, you are empowering employees to take new ownership, new leadership, and to see themselves in a different light when you empower them like that. But like, at what point now do you say, like, when was the pivot? Because I really want to talk about this, because we've been talking about this forever, about hopefully getting down to Atlanta. But like, when did you suddenly say too, like, you know what I need to start is this like VR project hidden in plain sight? Like, when did you pivot to like, I have this other calling now too?
Well, honestly, Nathan, there was never a pivot. There was always a through line. Anybody can tell you there's always a through line into one. Remember what my purpose in life was: to help others see their potential, but also their ability to reach their potential. So there was always a connectivity to identifying what someone was purposeful about, what was important to them in their lives. And so I always made a connection. So there was what I call the me, we, and us philosophy. I have to understand what's important to you, what's important to we as a team, and then what's important to us as an organization. If I don't know what's important to Nathan, then how is he going to commit to us, we as a team, and then how is he going to commit to us as an organization? If there is no connectivity, Nathan is not going to come in on a Saturday or work late on a Friday or do whatever if I cannot say, this is why it's important to you. And so we would go through this process. There's a through line for everything. And so once I was able to identify what's important to these individuals, they began to trust me. I am willing to do this for our team and our organization and Dontrese as a leader, because he is committed to what I am purposeful and passionate about, right? And everything is in alignment with that. And so everyone knew all the stuff that I did outside of and what we would call it at Capital One, it would be, the phrase was like side of the desk. Like, oh, you're doing your main work, but this is side of the desk. And people knew the work that I was doing outside of Capital One. And I still intertwined that with everything. So whatever was going on in an organization, Capital One was, they, the best places to work. They were, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all that stuff. Um, so I would tap into that and say, okay, are you really concerned about this? Then I will lead this conversation. I will lead Black History Month. I will lead all the business resource groups redesign with my teams. I will elevate that and I will showcase how important these groups are to the bottom line and how important that is, right? So I would take a little bit of a nugget and say, okay, let's redesign these groups and then let's work and show how important these business units are to the overall business groups. That continued to move the needle within the organization. I started to speak at different types of community company events and that type of deal. And then I would reach out into the community. Hey, we need to do this. Hey, we need to do this. I'm working on this project or this project from a community development standpoint. You all need to be a part of it. So everything I did was still within everything that I am purposeful and passionate about. And I tied it all together. So it wasn't separate. It was like when you saw me doing good work within the organization, but you also knew this son of a gun is really stepping outside and doing work within the community that's important for us as an organization, but also important for us from a community standpoint. Then that started to lead through, not only the Cristo Rey Richmond High School that I brought to the city of Richmond, which you all have in Atlanta, Cristo Rey Atlanta, to Hidden in Plain Sight, which we'll talk about as well. But all of that, came about through the murder of George Floyd, and how we would respond to that. So after I left Capital One, I was there for just a little bit under 2 years. I think I was there for like 18 months. You get to a point to where your purpose is driving you. And then you realize like, okay, y'all say this stuff and I'm challenging you to hold your cup. I'm challenging you to hold you say okay, but you're not really okay. And I'm at the point now, I'm 50 plus. I don't have time to conform. Like God has shown me what I'm supposed to do. I don't have time to conform. And if you are not going to understand that my purpose is this thing, then I'm out. I just don't have time to do that. And it's a good space to be in when like, I'm okay with it. I'm fine. You do you, I do me, right? Like Tupac said, you either ride with me or you can lie with me. I'm straight. I'm good with it. And that's when I stepped outside. I left Capital One and really just started to get into, I knew my calling was community development, social justice, community health, economic mobility, and education. Those are the buckets. And I was still doing that at Capital One, but I began to just be so consumed in it. And I wanted my work to continue to be consumed in it. And it just became this balance. Like my side of the desk work started to go here. And my normal work, business, what do they call it? BAU, business as usual. That's what it was. It's business as usual inside the desk. My business as usual started to go here, and my side of the desk started to go here. And I was okay with it. And so then I said, I just can't. I have to follow what's important. My impact to the community is far greater than credit cards.
Yeah. I mean, and it's tough because we don't have to like litigate there, but it sounds like they, on one hand, were empowering you, and on one hand, too, I think some of the calling was just greater than what they were going to empower
Right.
you to do in that
Right.
role. Like, I don't want to sit here and also like, well, I mean, we can have that off the record, but
Right.
I was just like, we don't want to shit on Capital One. I think there's an element
No.
where, because the first part of that story, I was like, this is culture though, where you put that side of the
Yeah.
desk, you empower your employees, but it becomes an element where you're like, this is really what I want to do. I don't
Right.
like.
Right.
That the appeal to do. I remember, and it was funny when we said that earlier. I'm like, I don't have a moment, and I'm like, I had started my business, and then I pulled into work one day, and I had the business for like 6 months, and I got out. I stopped at Publix for a sub. I came out, my car was scratched. Then I sit in the parking lot. I'm like, if I don't eat in here, by the time I get in, I have to say hi to everybody. Let me just eat in the car. I, I crunch down on something. I'm like, that's part of my tooth.
Yeah.
So I pulled the piece of tooth out, and I'm like, this day is going sideways. And then I looked down at my phone, and I was organizing a wine tasting for employees, and FedEx showed up, and a whole case of wine was smashed. And that was like I, I love what I loved what I did. I loved the company, and I remember when I sat down with my boss and I started telling him what had happened, and I was just like, I think it's the same. He just smiled at me. He's like, "Yeah, man, I was waiting for you to fly the coop." Like, it's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
wondering how much longer you wanted to plan wine tastings. Like,
Right. 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 Right.
there's that element of like, yeah, it's not necessarily the employer. It's also sometimes there's just a like, man, I think my work's evolved past what I can do here, and the impact that originally was really exciting is no longer enough for me.
Right.
And it's just time, and I think a lot of younger employees I think struggle with that, the loyalty, whatever. And like you said, like I
Yeah.
was I was well into my late 30s. I was like, good luck.
Right. 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 And you're right. I mean, it's no like I learned so much at Capital One. I within that year and a half, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much how to lead a team before COVID and virtual reality. I had 45 creatives across the US. I had 7 different lines of businesses. I had business partners, just navigating and how to keep a team connected cohesively, how to inspire a team, how to motivate a team. Like I was on one. I had my team like we would go to war for each other. We built a team that was it was probably the best outside of coaching and being an athlete. It was the best that I had done in regard to keeping a team together and trusting and believing in each other per project, per line of businesses. It's unbelievable. So I learned a lot, but then I also learned a lot about myself, my non-negotiables, things that I'm not going to sacrifice, things that I'm not going to do, things that I'm not going to let go of or sacrifice. I learned a lot about myself. And so it taught me a lot. Um, and I give a lot of credit. And yeah, sometimes it may sound like I'm shitting on Capital One, but I'm not. I'm just like, I got to a point where I realize I'm either going to shit or get off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm either going to stand on something 10 toes down, or I'm just going to be here doing this, just bumping my gums. Are you really going to be this guy that you say you are? Or are you really going to stand on something? So it gave me the confidence to really actually do that. That led into a lot of the good work that, I mean, I got here in Richmond in 2015, renaming the Boulevard Arthur Ashe Boulevard, which was tremendous. Like the community, the engagement, working with city officials, working with grassroots organizations, having John Lewis come speak, working with, it was just an amazing, I had never done a project that big. Amazing. The city, the community, galvanizing everybody to bring together. The Cristo Rey Richmond High School project was tremendous. And then, to really launch, the VR project with Hidden in Plain Sight after the murder of George Floyd, I just felt like I needed to do something, and, and it's really funny because my son, he was like, he said to me, he said, Dad, he goes, well, why didn't he just get up off his neck? And I said, son, I don't know. And he goes, and he says, well, you changed the name of the boulevard. You brought the school here. So what are you going to do now? My son says this to me. Like, like I'm his superhero. Like, he's like, Dad, like, what are you going to do now? And I'm sitting here like, holy shit, like this is my son, like what the heck? And all I wanted for them to know is that I can do things and make the world better for them. And my phrase is audacious confidence. Like, I have this unbelievable superpower, that I have this audacious confidence that everything I do and touch is going to change the world. I may not see it in my lifetime, but I will start a ripple. I will start something that is eventually going to change the world. So when my son said that to me, I sat back and I'm like, this kid believes that I can do anything. And he was like, Dad, so Dad, what are you going to do? How are you going to fix this? Like, Dad, like, and so I was like, okay, son, what the hell am I going to do? And then so I started. I just came off of this leadership program here in Richmond, um, called Leadership Metro Richmond, and it's basically just giving you the understanding of all the things in Richmond, good, the bad, the ugly. And you and I've talked about it. It's like they grab about 75 up and coming leaders in the city of Richmond, and they give you the good, the bad, the ugly. And then they say, okay, we're going to put you in these immersion groups, and you have to identify a change, a solution, or something within your immersion group. And my immersion group was criminal justice reform. Um, and so we came up with this great thing. We partnered with a nonprofit because recidivism is a thing. Returning citizens, they just don't have nothing. They don't have money for anything. They can't get a job. They can't get a home, and they can't get medication. And so what do? They go back to jail.
Yeah, they don't have a
They
chance.
purposely they don't have a chance. So we came up with this project, this program, which is awesome. So anyway, we're starting to look at the six major projects around here in the city of Richmond. And then we came across what's called Lumpkin's Jail, and we thought it was like a jail system, and we thought it was part of the jail system, but it wasn't. It was where the slaves, when they came down the James River, they went to what's called Rocket's Landing, and the slaves got off of the ship, and then they walked to um, this house that was owned by Mr. Lumpkin. And he had this huge house, and at the bottom of his house, 15 feet underground, was what was called Lumpkin's Jail. And that's where they housed the slaves before they were moved to the market to where they were sold. And I couldn't find this place. Like, my studio is right in Shockoe Bottom. And I was like, where is this place? Where is this place? I couldn't find it, only to realize I'd been driving by it every day. And so I was like, holy cow. So met with some of my buddies, and I was like, I want to add to the social justice narrative outside of what everyone else was doing. There's stories that need to be told. There's so many sites within our city that people walk by every day, not knowing the historical context from a Black American experience standpoint. And so I was like, we're just walking by these places. They're just hidden in plain sight. They're just right there in front of people that they just don't know. And so that was the birth of Hidden in Plain Sight, which is a VR web-based platform that takes people throughout our city here in Richmond, of sites they walk by every day, not knowing the historical context from a Black American experience standpoint. Now, we've expanded that. It's not just the Black American experience standpoint. Hidden in Plain Sight exists to use technology to change the future of cultural education for any historically underrepresented group. Any historically underrepresented group. So now we're talking to Charleston. Now we're talking to Atlanta, which you know. Now we're talking to Little Rock, Arkansas. We've been out to Santa Fe, Mexico. Like, we know that this has legs to tell those stories. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, Nathan. We had no idea. It was just like, okay, let's try this thing. So we're building it as we're walking, as we're driving, as we're flying a plane while knitting our sweater. We had no freaking clue. And now it's a platform that is ridiculous right now.
Well, it's funny too, because like we met, and then later last year, I forget who it was. Not later, honestly, it was pretty shortly after we met. Um,
Lauren introduced us.
yeah, and then Shakiri Moraine posts something on LinkedIn about reading Where Peachtree Meets Sweet Auburn, And so I
Yeah.
finally ordered that book, and like, and I, so now, and it's so weird, like, all these places that you drove by, like every time I go into Atlanta, like I go to the Russell Center and it's like, here are all these, and like you're reading this book about, who's this John Wesley Dobbs guy, the Grand, and,
Right.
and I mean, we know what Sweet Auburn is, but like, and all of a sudden I'm starting to like, oh, that's J.W. Dobbs, and that's Ivan Allen Jr., and that's like all these little, and if you didn't grow up here, you don't get the local history in school. Well, no,
Right.
you're not get it either way. But all these things started to become so like, where you're like, this is 100-year-old history, though. These people are still like here, really,
Right.
their grandkids are still here. And so like, I don't know, man. I mean, as soon as we met, I was like, holy shit, like whatever help I can be
Yeah.
to make this thing happen in Atlanta, like what a cool project where you lose all these things in history over time. And it's like, I don't know, I'm a son of a history teacher too. Like you're
Yeah.
doomed to repeat what you don't, and some places do a great job of it. Like Germany preserved a lot of the bad,
Yep.
has preserved a lot of it because it teaches you how to maybe not do that again. And we've kind of paved over a lot of it.
Yep. Yep. And and I tell folks, like, again, when I say we had no idea what we were doing, we didn't have any idea. And what I like to say to folks is, if you have something on your heart, if you have an idea, get it out, share it. Because when I met with my business partner, Dean, who is a screenwriter who writes the script for everything, and then we met with David, who is the VR, the tech guy, we had these ideas of how we wanted to impact our community. We were holding in these stories and these beliefs until we got together. And it was by chance that Dean and I were meeting after George Floyd was murdered. We just had a meeting on the calendar a week after George Floyd was murdered. And he was like, how are you doing? What can I do to help? And I said, I want to do something. And then he said, after we started talking, I want to introduce you to this guy, David, who's got this VR project that I think could be something. So I tell people all the time, you never know who needs to hear what you have to say.
Mm.
You just never know. So don't hold anything in, because that's how you and I got connected. Lauren introduced you to me, and now look, right? We don't know, like, if you hold it in, and you may think it's the dumbest idea in the world, but until you mention it to somebody could be like, you know what? I was actually thinking that I wanted to do something, and then introduce you to somebody else, and then somebody else. And the next thing you know, you got a project like freaking hidden in plain sight, right? An entrepreneurial project that could change the world. And so, um, I tell all my younger generation and people of my age, like, get it out in the universe. Talk about what your dreams are. Talk about what your passions are. Even if you think they are the most ridiculous thing, there's going to be somebody across the table that's like, I had a similar idea. And the next thing you know, it's going to take off.
That's why I keep telling people about one of these days Chad and I are going to launch our trash
No,
cast.
no doubt. That's what I'm saying,
It's going
dude.
to happen.
Like,
I just had to
you
find
just
that
got to
person
keep
that
doing it. Yeah.
sees. So, and then you get funding, and all of a sudden, though, you have like I look at my business as an opportunity. Like, we have a good enough year, I fund that passion project that can then.
Hmm.
So yeah, and you just honestly too, I think for a lot of younger folks too, like I think there's something. I mean, you talked about what was it, audacious confidence?
Audacious confidence. Yep.
Like, just get out and start building that. Like, just start doing.
Just go.
Whether it's bagging trash, whether it's just serving on nonprofit boards, whatever it is that it looks like. And I think too, a lot of people you get caught up in the like, and I wrote this down this morning of like, what am I doing this year? I'm building the beloved community. That's
Yeah.
the task I'm tasked with. And like it might not come this year. And Ronnie Bullard's coming on, and we had a planning call with him before the end of the year, and he talked about the beloved community, and and it's like, that's what I'm doing. And so, like, I think if you just get out and start doing the things, just start doing positive
Just
things
start
in the
doing the
world,
things. Yep.
it will it will happen. But you have to kind of get out and start doing, and then you'll figure out what you like, what you don't like, where your
Yeah.
impact is really felt, and but I think you get caught up too in the like, if you think you're gonna plant the tree, watch it grow, and sit under its shade in the next 3
Right.
years, We need to
Well,
we need to set some
right,
expectations.
right. And you have to be okay. And so I've gotten to the point where I don't care if I ever see any of the fruits of my labor. I don't care. Like, I'm far beyond that. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it's I don't care if I ever see anything that I've planted, as long as I know that I've planted it. And I'm okay with that, because the ancestors that have died for me, they didn't know that I would be where I am today doing the work that I've done, but they sacrificed their lives so that I could be where I am today. And so now I carry that torch, and I can't worry about if I see things. Now, there's some things that I'll see. Arthur Ashe Boulevard, great. Cristo Rey Richmond High School, great. But there is also some other things that I've started that I may never see, and I'm okay with that. And I'm just going to keep, what do you say? Keep chopping at the tree, and just keep planting the seeds, and just keep moving along and doing the good work and follow on my purpose. And the amazing thing is when, my daughter, who is the DEI chair for her sorority, and she talks about the importance. She had to write an essay, and she asked me to help her write a speech for the incoming class. And she talks about the work that her dad has done and the community work. And my son talks about the work that I've done. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about. Like, now you know how important it is to give back. And that's what it is, man. Like, we are here because of others that came before us, and they have trusted in us to continue to leave a legacy for others to go. It's our responsibility to give back to those behind us and respect those that came before us. We need to be the heroes that we seek, and then we need to leave those legacies behind us. And that's all. I mean, that's all I'm doing, man. I'm in such a good space now in terms of that. Like, I trust and believe in God. I know that I know and believe that He's guiding me. And if I just continue to do the work, that's it. I'm just going to continue to chop the tree, man. I'm going to just keep chopping it and chopping it and chopping it.
Just to continue to humbly serve, my man. Like,
That's
that's
it,
it.
man. Yep, that's it.
And Dontrese, before we let you get out of here today,
Yeah.
you are working on a book, correct?
Yes. I'm working on a book right now. It's called Build for Justice. It's a call to action to lead with both mind and heart. It's sort of like a part memoir, part manifesto, part blueprint, and just invites folks to reimagine what leadership looks like when it's rooted in purpose, powered by courage, and committed to justice.
That's awesome. When is it available yet, or when's it coming out?
Not yet, not yet. I'm in the stages of it now. So hopefully it's midsummer 2026.
Okay, perfect. And everybody, give Dontrese. He's on LinkedIn. Anywhere else you want people to follow you at?
No, LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place you can meet me. J. Dontrese at LinkedIn. Follow me there. That's probably the place you'll find me the most.
And find out when that book's coming out.
You got it.
Well, we'll leave it there, Dontrese, man. I could go on for hours, but what a treat.
No doubt.
I mean, what a treat to get to know you too. Like, I mean, the podcast is fun. Like, we get to share, but it's also like sometimes the podcast becomes like the most in-depth conversation I've had with somebody I've known for over a year now.
Right.
So it's just cool to continue to get to know you, and honestly to have an ally in the beloved community that we're building together, man. We're just doing the work in two separate parts of the country, but united by purpose and calling. So pleasure to serve with you, my man.
Man, I appreciate you, man. And again, God don't make mistakes. There's a reason why we're connected, and we'll stay connected. And I appreciate you and the work, and anything I can do to help. I'm there. We got to make sure that we get this hidden in plain sight Atlanta down there. So we'll figure that out. Yeah.
And Build Southeast is going to be in DC in like 9 months.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Hey, let me get on that speaking circuit, because I'm definitely ready to do that too.
If only you know the guy planning it.
All right.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again for coming on, and man, we'll talk soon.
You got it, man. I appreciate you, man. God bless.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Be the Change Georgia. We're grateful, as always, for the opportunity to serve you with this content and grow this incredible community of purpose-driven B Corp leaders. If you haven't already, we would be grateful for you to rate this show wherever you get your podcasts by simply tapping the number of stars you think it deserves and sharing it with a friend. This helps us get the word out and continue to use our collective influence as a force for good. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the help from our production team at Chat with Leaders Media. Learn how you can launch your own podcast to grow your business at chatwithleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and now go be a leader worth following.